4 years and beyond. One of the primary areas of focus, you would recall, that President Akufo-Addo and his administration have been championing has been the education subsector. I think one of the things in it that seems to catch everybody's attention is the free senior high school program. But the agenda is bigger than the free senior high school program. This afternoon, the Honorable Minister responsible for education will be speaking to us about the agenda, 4 years and beyond. Shortly, I would highlight a few things you should probably look out for in his brief. But before he does that, I have a little announcement that I want to invite one of our chief executives to share with you. Later this week, something significant is going to happen in this country to support particularly people in the micro, small scale, and medium scale enterprise space. And it's got to do with what we used to call the National Board for Small Scale Industries. They are changing focus, they are enhancing the scope of their operations, and that will happen later this week. So I want to very briefly invite the executive director of what we now call the NBSSI, Kosi Yanki. Kosi, join us with a quick announcement of what will happen on Wednesday, and then I'll share with you the details of the education brief as we are going to take it shortly. For our colleagues who are carrying us live, we thank you very much. We'll give you an opportunity to also interrogate the presentations that you will receive this afternoon. Kosi, we're in your hands.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. I would like to announce the launch of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, which will be launched on Wednesday, the 9th of June, 2021. This new agency would be the apex body to promote, grow, to regulate the micro, small, and medium enterprises sector. The importance of this and the promotion and development of the MSME sector cannot be undermined because of what it does for an economy in terms of strengthening and growing it, in terms of job creation, in terms of wealth creation, and even improving the quality of life of Ghanaians. So it has been very important, and over the past few years, we've been working on an act to support this sector, and this would be launched. So the Ghana Enterprises Agency will be launched on Wednesday, 9th June, 2021. Along with it would be the launch of the National MSME Policy, the first of its kind in this nation. Over the years, there have been various papers and policies on industrialization, but nothing really on the micro, small, and medium enterprises, giving it direction and giving it a plan for growth and a better implementation plan for strategically positioning MSMEs in this nation. Along with that is realizing and understanding the importance of BDS provision as well as support financially to some MSMEs. So along with that would be the SME grant support as well, in excess over 100 million, which would be shared, which would be worked on and discussed as well and launched on that day under the Ghana Economic Transformation Program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's a quick brief. Kosi, please stay with me. A quick brief on, can I say the transmogrification or the transformation of NBSSI into the Ghana Enterprises Agency.
Yes.
And a number of things under that and what you can look forward to. If there are quick questions for her on that, I'd like to take them and get them out of the way before I move to the education brief. One of the questions that came to my mind when I initially saw the text is this just a rebranding of NBSSI to something else? Just a change in name?
No, it's not. Yes, so it's not just the changing of a name of an institution, but it's a real major transformation of an institution from what it was to something that is stronger and has the ability to bring about a lot more change in the sector. And also when you look at the new act that governs it, in the past, the NBSSI Act was actually outmoded in terms of what it could do and its relevance. It was also outmoded in the form that it just focused on the micro and small at a time when we had an economy that looked at micro and small. But with this new act and this new agency, the focus is also looking at micro, small, and medium enterprises, because we can't move the economy forward if we're not looking at the small and medium enterprises. And that is what this new agency seeks to do. And so, yes, it is a major transformation, one on levels we've never seen before in a country, especially when you look at where we've come from in the past 4 years, where when in 2016, 2017, the budget of the institution was less than very little, in excess of 20,000 from what has to do besides government salaries, but then has been able to move to in excess of 500 million Ghana cedis. That is what a transformation does. And so it's not the old one, it's a new institution.
I see. And also with this, there's an SME support fund.
Yes.
Of about how much? 100 something?
For initially.
Initially about 100 million.
And the goal is to really transform that. So that would also be shared and will be outdoored.
Okay. Kosi, thank you. You may please
much.
resume your seat. Subsequently, when there are any other questions, we'll bring them to your attention. Colleagues, I want to move into the education brief. First, I want to acknowledge a number of persons from the education sector who are here with us. The Chief Director, Ministry of Education, Mr. Benjamin Jesse, number of directors, Edward Fiawoife, Abdul Razak Umar, Divine Ayijo, who are with us. Mr. Hayford Sian is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Library Authority. Hayford, where are you? Congratulations. We hear you just won some new international award for the Ghana Library Authority. Deputy Director General of GES, Dr. Kwabena Bempa Tando, is here with us. Acting Director General, NACA, John Mensah Anang, is here with us. And the Director General, GES, Professor Kwesi Opoku Amankwa, is also here with us. I see Mr. Boadu of Get Fund, who is also here with us, and a few others who are acknowledged as we move on. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, the minister responsible for education is going to spend some time speaking to the president's agenda or the Akufo-Addo administration's agenda in the education sector. And there are a number of things that he will be speaking to, but I'd like to highlight a few of them even ahead of his presentation so that you may want to also take some more interest in those, and perhaps we can interrogate them some more. Included in the various things that he'll be talking about is something that I think has been spoken about for a while, but it appears there's some action now. The assessment of pupils at basic education before they do what we all did at the BECE, so that you don't wait for BECE before you see that, there's a problem, or attention needs to be paid here and there. Secondly, there's also been a lot of talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's all talk, or now there's something specific to ensure that our children and those in Hong Kong can code and compete early enough in STEM. And one of the questions that's come up quite often, yes, government has done a lot in terms of free senior high school education, but what is being done to increase access at the tertiary level? These are some of the things that will form part of the many things he'll be speaking to. He's Member of Parliament for Bosom Train. Please join me to welcome the Honourable Minister responsible for education.
Thank you, Honourable Minister for Information. There's something you didn't say. This is my first appearance here as a minister. But thank you so much for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Deputy Education Minister Designate, Chief Director of the Ministry of Education, Head of Agencies at MOE, Directors, MBSSI, Executive Director, I think soon the name will change. It's an honor to be here. Of course, this is the day for the media. So I'm honored that you have come here in your numbers to listen to what I have to say about the President's 4 years agenda and beyond. Around the world, a great transformation is taking place in the various education systems. It's taking place so that they can respond to the needs of their population and to their human capital needs. Around the world, governments are doing everything possible to reposition themselves so that they can have an opportunity to transform their education system in order to ensure that the education system will also meet their socioeconomic needs. And Ghana is not in isolation in this instant. The president believes that the fourth industrial revolution is upon us. In order to make sure that we have a population that is truly empowered and skilled enough to lead the nation at this critical juncture, in order to ensure that we understand that students should be able to do computing, understand artificial intelligence, robotics, and not forget the Internet of Things, 3D printing, genetic engineering, a number of things in the STEM area, not forgetting the creative arts field as well. This government have taken various initiatives into account during the first 4 years. I'm sure you heard of many things during the first 4 years. And sometimes when you take them in isolation, you begin to miss the point. Missing the point comes when you take Free Senior High School in isolation. But when you begin to see that in the 21st century, education is not just a piece of the puzzle, but it's the whole puzzle. That education is what will transform the socio-economic stage of Ghana. Then you begin to see why there's a need for Free Senior High School. When you begin to realize that for us to transform our fortunes, yes, we'll do many things in other spheres, but if we don't transform education, transformation in the socio-economic arena will elude the nation. Then you understand why the president was in a hurry during the first year of his first term to say that Free Senior High School is a must and it has to be done. Around the world, countries that have transformed their fortune did so because they were able to raise a large proportion of their citizens in the field of STEM, and not just STEM, also move them up to the tertiary level. There's a talk about the gross tertiary enrollment ratio, ensuring that the vast majority of our citizens will have tertiary education. I explain this in simple terms. If you go to a village in Bosonche called Bonkoko, and you ask the chief of Bonkoko, what is the number of people between the ages of 18 to 22? Just the population. What number of people are between 18 to 22? And the chief responds and says 100. And then you further on ask the chief, Nana, how many people in this town are at the tertiary level, whether it's teacher training college, nursing training college, any form of tertiary? And Nana responds that I only have 10 people. This is irrespective of the age. Then Bonkoko has a 10% gross tertiary enrollment ratio. If you go to another town, you ask, and then you have 20%. That town that has 20% will develop faster than the town that only has 10%. Around the world, countries that have transformed their fortune do so because they move that numbers up. If you look at Mauritius, 40%. Mauritius is now moving. It's seeing transformation. Of course, South Korea, 93.6. The nation is transformed. Recently, the President of the Republic, Nana Adutwum Akufo-Addo, said something about gross tertiary enrollment ratio when he said, by 2030, the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana should be 40%. It escaped a lot of people. He was not saying that the growth in enrollment should be 40%. He said the gross tertiary enrollment ratio should be 40%. What is the current ratio now? 18.8%. And that will not bring about socio-economic transformation of this country. But how can you get these tertiary numbers up when 50% of your youth don't have opportunity for secondary education? It's not going to happen. So Free Senior High School within this test is about transformation of the fortunes of Ghana. So when you increase your numbers, you are transforming the numbers that will go to the tertiary. But you are not just increasing any numbers. You're also concerned about who actually moves up. What kind of the skills are they bringing from secondary to tertiary? So if you look at our achievements during the first 4 years, you're going to see a number of things here that truly need to be taken care of in terms of what we have done. Of course, you see Free Senior High School up there. And that is not enough. We also knew that a number of things had to be done. But look at the numbers. Free Senior High School, secondary education enrollment, growing from 800,000 plus to 1.5 million. Now, great accomplishment of this government. Improved performance on WASI. We'll have the opportunity to say a few words about that. Infrastructure expansion at all levels of the education system. procuring and distributing 1,190 pickups and buses to various agencies under the Ministry of Education. Recently, I had a wonderful opportunity of meeting former ministers, and one minister made a profound statement. He indicated that when she was at the ministry, she began the effort, and yes, she did, in terms of taking our 778 and begin to build the National Teaching Council, the National Inspectorate Board at the time, and making sure that all those agencies will have the requisite resources in order to do their work. She began, and we continue. And under the first 4 years of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's administration, NTC was actually built. NASIA, the new authority in charge of school inspection, was actually built. Resources was provided. NTC, resources was provided. So that goes to tell you that the MPP government under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo believes that when one government starts something, another government continues and do it for the benefit of the Ghanaian people. And that is what we did during the first term. You move on to restoration of teacher allowances. There are many significant interventions in senior high school. Recently, I've had the opportunity to be interviewed and to be asked about many things, including the free senior high school. And then when you hear people talking about the outcomes were great, but somehow our students didn't do it. I always believe that we are one country. One government does something, another continues. If it goes well for the nation. And politics should not come to the level where we want to score some political points by saying that something that is so good is so bad. E-blocks were constructed in many places, and we have continued. A E-block at Domiko Abenya, I'm on record to have said that the location couldn't have been better. It's filled with students. We've added 2-story block by Get Fund. It's filled up. The GMPC came build a 6-classroom block. It's filled up. Good location, excellent location, is benefiting Ghanaian people. But if I go to Nsawura and there's one there, that by virtue of its location cannot be operationalized and I had to add dormitories, I will say that. But I'm not going to say because E-blocks were constructed by the NDCs, somehow everything about it is wrong. So yes, Free Senior High School was started by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Various interventions have been implemented, and that is why you see the results that you are seeing. Free Senior High School was not just we have started and let it go, leave it. No, you have core textbooks that were provided through the Ghana Education Service. Intervention grants were disbursed to schools by the Ghana Education Service. Provision of bursaries to girls, and this was part of the Secondary Education Improvement Program project that was started by the NDC, and we continue. Those that ensured that we could disburse money to girls as bursaries to take care of themselves in secondary schools across the country. Remedial packages delivered to schools, leadership training, and the SIP. You talk about absorption of school fees and the Free Senior High School, free meals for even day students. So when you do all these inputs, quality inputs, the outcome should not surprise anyone. And this is an investment by the people of Ghana. And when the outcome is good, we've got to say it. And today I congratulate the young men and women who did well in the past while, and I want to thank the teachers for their sacrifices and thank Ghana Education Service under the able leadership of Dr. Opoku Amankwa for the excellent job done. Library. I'm so excited. Probably the youngest of all the head of agencies at the Ministry of Education, Mr. Sian. I almost said Dr. Sian because I think he deserves an award of an honorary degree. Honorary doctorate degree. I think universities that are listening, you probably want to give him one. Why am I saying that? Took over the library at a time when things had fallen apart in the words of Kofi Kenyatta. Things were not going well. And then you begin to see vans refurbished so that they can do mobile library services. You go to a library at the headquarters in Accra, buildings were repainted. Go to the various regional levels, library were revamped. The number of people visiting library has gone up. Literacy has become a major focus of the library, distributing books to schools in order to ensure that our children can read and they can write. This is a major intervention by the president through the leader of the library service and his able board chair. Now, when you take a look at all this in the library, I think you see it there. Great things are happening at the library authority. And I couldn't have been more proud of this young man for the work that he has led his agency to do. I think you see a number of vehicles there, and this speaks to what they have done and the award that they recently received in London for the work that they've done. It has really gotten global recognition and significance. Now, WASI, I think I've alluded to the great accomplishment of the teachers, the men and women who go to classrooms every day and do their best to ensure that our children are taught. Headmasters of schools who does their very best. Parents who, in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic, allow their children to go to school so that they can take this exam. And you can see the scores in various areas. I think for the sake of time, the document will be available and you can have a look or take a look at it. So you can move on to other places, please. Legal reforms were not undertaken in vacuum. Various bills were sent to Parliament and they were passed into law. Education Regulatory Bodies Act, Pre-Tertiary Education Act, Complementary Education Act, which changed the non-formal education to a true adult education institution, where when you turn 40, I call it Nkechi, never too late for you. When you are 40 years and you are in this country, the Complementary Education Service is going to provide you an opportunity. If you want to learn tiling, carpeting, being an electrician, that will be the place to go. Complementary Education Service is going to do a lot for the youth and the adults of this country. We also understand that there are some things that needed to be done. Huge infrastructural expansion, like has never happened before, has taken place during the last 4 years. And we have the list of various buildings that have been constructed across the length and breadth of this nation. You have various kindergarten blocks that have been completed, various primary school blocks, and you can see the images for yourselves. You have basic schools that were falling apart, that has now been rehabilitated or new blocks has been done, and there are pictures everywhere for you to take a look at it, and the location has been indicated so that there will be no doubt that it was actually done. No doubt about that. Senior high school classroom blocks done so that we will have the opportunity to take out the double track. The president made a promise and he delivered. So if you see schools where construction have progressed steadily, and by the way, not all schools are double track. Those that are double track receive a major dose of infrastructure expansion, and in some schools, double track is no longer there. You go to some schools, first year may not be double track any longer. I'll tell you about Massey High School, my sixth form school. First year is single track, second year is single track, and of course, third year is single track. Prempeh College, first year is no longer double track. There are a number of schools where double track is being eliminated because they have enough facilities. And we are going to live within the president's promise of 5 to 7 years to eliminate double track. Now it's come down to about 2 to 3 years, and most schools will be off the double track calendar. I think you see some building here. This improved infrastructure in various universities, and we want to commend the leadership of those institutions for embarking on infrastructure expansion. But let me go to an area that is dear to the hearts of many Ghanaians. That is TVET. A friend of mine called me on the phone from abroad and said, you know, Ghana needs to expand its TVET space. And in America, in Germany, this is what is going on. Talk about the various equipment that are available. And then I allowed him to speak for about 30 minutes, and he said, mechatronics, that is the the word of the day. This is what is going on. I said, oh, my brother, mechatronics is in Ghana. And he said, oh, so why are you not telling us? Today I'm here, my brother, to tell you that most of the things that you lamented about has actually been done. You go to Kwadaso Methodist Technical Institute and you'll be amazed the kind of equipment that is in the school. You may not find it in other places in the world. TVET landscape is changing, and everything you see there is something that is in a Ghanaian TVET school. Things are changing so fast in the TVET space. The government, look at the equipment that is there. These are TVET institutions. This is Apiamenka, Apentemenka University. You're going to see that the equipment is there. It's being used by the students. We are competitive in the TVET space. So you can move on to Sunyani Technical University. Equipment has been installed. A number of technical schools, equipment have gone there. Cape Coast Technical University, you have the equipment there newly installed. Whole Technical University, equipment are there newly installed. A number of things are going on. Technical schools at the secondary level. Various equipment are being dispatched there and installed for the benefit of the students. We are moving in the TVET space into the creation of the TVET service so that all TVET institutions will not be spread across various, about 17 ministries, but they will come to one agency. That agency will be accountable for TVET transformation. That agency will be in charge of TVET service in this country. And then we are going to be able to see what is done in the TVET space in Germany, the dual system of TVET, where students go to school for 2 days and they go to work for 3 days. At the end, it's not about book knowledge. It's about real experience in the field. Sector skill bodies. These are industry people who are now going to oversee TVET curriculum and TVET schools. They were recently inaugurated. Dr. Fred Chea Samuel is doing an excellent job in that space. And many things are happening in the TVET field. Now that I've talked about TVET, and I hope people who are watching us will be able to also hear and see what is being done, let me talk about improving the quality of education. You see, free senior high school is an access opportunity. Opportunity to bring the vast majority of our youth to senior high schools and to technical schools. Prior to this, the F-Cube had come. Free compulsory universal basic education. That too was an access issue. It came with a capitation grant so that parents would not be asked to pay fees but can send their children to school. That was an access opportunity. But education do not just rest on access. It rests on three main things: access, quality, and relevance. These are the three most important things. You can have a cross-cutting concept of equity, but access, quality, relevance is what you deal with in the education space. And that is what was tackled during the first term of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's administration. So invariably you hear people talking about the standards, and I say to them, this is the first time a government have said, I'm not just going to do one thing. I'm going to do many things at the same time. If you know something about education research, you're going to realize that in education, you can't do one thing and expect a change. We have done the piecemeal approach to education reform in this country for many times, many years. We heard about the 1987 education reform, severing off some part of the upper secondary and creating the junior high education that happens to be having relegated to the upper primary level, so to speak. When you look at the 1987 education reform and what it did, prior to that, we have 7 years of secondary education. 7 years that a student could be at Mfansipim or at Chimota. During those 7 years, he had access to library, access to computer lab, access to science lab. The 1987 education reform said, you know what? We are not going to do this number of years 7. We're only going to do 6. But with the 6, it's also said we're only going to keep 3 at the higher end of the secondary education system. So invariably, because of how we've implemented junior high, you hear people saying, we need 4 years of secondary. And I ask them, why do we need 4 years when we already have 6? But because we did not implement all the 6, we cut off the 4 years from upper secondary and ended up with a situation where the lower secondary, which is 3, was shipped to elementary school building. That used to be middle school. You see, when you talk about secondary education, all jurisdictions, this is what you have to have in mind. In many countries, they have 6 years of secondary education. But you decide whether you keep the 6 years at one location or you split it into 2. 3 at one end, the senior end, and 3 at the lower secondary or the junior end. We decided that we're going to do 3 at the upper end, senior high, and do 3 at the lower end. Unfortunately, though, the reform of 1987 did not do justice to the lower end. The lower end became part of primary school. They wore the same uniform as primary school students, taught by the same teachers invariably, and we forgot about the fact that the lower 3 was truly secondary or high school. So if you meet anybody on the street and you ask them how many years of high school do we have in Ghana, you'll be told that's 3, and we wish it was 4, but it is actually 6 years. And President Nana Adutwum is saying that he really wants to ensure that high school is actually 6 years, and that we should do everything possible to strengthen the lower secondary level. So you're going to see that as one of the areas that we're going to focus on in the next 3+ years, to make sure you strengthen the lower secondary end of things. If high school has libraries, lower secondary must also have them. So there are going to be a number of transformation activities that we're going to do in that area. To do that area so that we can create a true pipeline of quality education along the entire value chain. When we talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we are not talking about doing this at the university, but we are talking about creating a pipeline that begins from primary school that takes us through junior high school, all the way to the university. A pipeline that will allow Ghana to really use what we call the 4 C's, or utilize that and implement the 4 C's, which is communication, effective one, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. That will be seen. And for that to be seen, we have to take a serious look at STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, not as isolated subjects, but brought together. How do you get children to think creatively? I always make the point that if you really want to ensure that your education system is fit for purpose, you need to have people who think creatively. And creativity should be front and center of what you do. How do you do that? You know that invariably we ask questions, why, how, when? And that is the lowest level of learning that you can find. If your education service is preoccupied with why this happened, when this happened, and even evaluate, you are not there yet. You get there when you talk about create. So when you look at what is called the New Bloom's taxonomy, or the Web's depth of knowledge, questions that focuses on create is what allows students to think critically and become the kind of people we need for the 21st century Ghana, where the 4th industrial revolution is going to take away our jobs. Within the next few years, it is said that 40% of all jobs will be eliminated. And robots will be here. Critical thinkers will be needed. Internet of Things will take sway. You sit in your office and you want to see what is going on in your room. You log in and you see how everything is happening. You get into your house and your door recognizes you by the iris of your eye and open for you to enter. The world is changing, and it's changing fast. We need critical thinkers who will be able to navigate that space and create the next generation of robots and programs, software that countries will have to survive by. So the STEM is not, we are just doing science. No, it's the combination. And the combination that will call upon our children to be creative and to be critical thinkers. So instead of asking them, what are the causes of pollution? You want to ask them, how do you create a city without pollution? And that is how their creative talents will be brought to the fore. That is where they will use science, they will use technology, they will use engineering, they will use mathematics to answer, to respond to you. And that is the future that we want to create for our children under the new curriculum that has been deployed at the primary level and soon to be deployed at the junior high school level and also all the way to the senior high school level. At the primary school level, we want to improve learning outcomes and reduce learning poverty. But invariably what you see is this. Our children go to school for 11 years for us to know whether they did well or didn't do well. If I want to evaluate how Kokrobite primary school is doing, I'll have to send the circuit supervisors. Now they have a new name, CISOs, right? I have to send them there and say, give me a report. When the CISO is there, they will do everything so well. When CISO disappears, learning disappears. And there's a phenomenon that is called presenteeism. I'm present, but I'm not delivering. How are we going to stop that? We have to do what other nations are doing. Students are evaluated on a year-by-year basis at the national level. The World Bank talks about learning poverty, and they talk about the fact that by year 10, 53% of students in various countries cannot read for understanding, and Ghana is not an exception. Our human capital index is 0.44. So that is why the president says, transform the space. So transformation of the space means that all fourth graders this year are going to be tested across the length and breadth of this country. Every one of them. So that we'll see the challenges that is confronting us as a nation. And then we'll give them 1 year. We'll give them 1 year during the 5th grade of primary 5 to do intervention. We'll test them again in primary 6. The following year, we're even going to begin from primary 2, primary 4, primary 6, and beyond. This year, every student will be tested at 4th grade level. National standardized test, which has been done in Singapore and other places, is going to be a reality under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So parents, our goal is simple. We want to know whether your child can read or not. And the report will be generated and given to every single parent in this country in mathematics and literacy for them to really know whether their students are doing well or not. And then we'll have an opportunity to track them longitudinally. We want to take advantage of technology to digitize education in Ghana. We have a dashboard that is coming that will allow the Minister for Education to log in and see the attendance of every district, to see how every district is doing. And when the test is deployed and administered, the results will be on a dashboard. There will be a public component where anybody in this country can log in and see how their district or school is doing across the length and breadth of this nation. Things are going to change. And they are going to change because we find in this country youth that are ready to learn, determined to learn. And we need to create a platform for them to do just that. And they will make Ghana proud when the foundation is laid for them. We should be able to find out students from Sabzugu who started primary 1. Where did they end up? How many of them were able to make it to the university? The longitudinal tracking system that we are developing is going to allow us to do that. And I want to thank the National Identification Authority for the opportunity that they're going to present to us in giving national identification cards to our students so that we can use that as a unique identifier for every student in this country. We are going to continue with Gallup, Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes Project, to make sure that the 10,000 schools that are not doing well will receive additional resources in the form of learning grants to actually improve learning and teaching at the schools. We are grateful to the World Bank for the partnership and for the leadership of GES in this effort. There are many other agencies who are also involved. Junior high schools will be participating in Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA. Countries like Vietnam have gone to PISA, they are taking the test and they are beating the West. Vietnam is a developing country like ours, but because of their reform in education, like what we are doing, they produce 100,000 engineers every year. Yes, they are 3 times our population, but we do 6,000+ class a year. So if we were Vietnam, with 3 times our population, we may be doing at most 19,000 a year. 19,000 engineers will not give us the opportunity to attract industries from around the world as Vietnam is doing. 100,000 is what they are doing. And we can do better than that. We can do better than 6,500. We can move forward. And that is why when you hear of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the universities may be willing to admit people. But if we don't produce those young men and women from primary school, if we don't bring basic STEM, if we don't do STEM high schools across the country, how can they get the people to train at the university? It's not possible. So preparing for PISA also means that the program for international student assessment, it also means we have to begin to bridge the gap between junior high school and high school, begin to ensure that we are transforming our junior high school, they can truly participate. High school rankings are going to be done, it will be coming out soon. We are not just interested in ranking Jache Pramso against Achimota. I know Achimota will be ahead. But I'm interested in looking at Jache Pramso to see that how does it compare? How does Jache Pramso compare to schools that are accepting the same BECE students? So the similar schools ranking is what we're excited about. That it's not just about the national ranking. It's not just about comparing Frafraha Community Senior High School to Wesley Girls. We know Wesley Girls will be ahead. But I want to be able to look at how does Frafraha compare with Tuanse, compared to schools that are at the same level, compared to schools that accept the same students from the BECE. And that is what we're excited about. So when the comparison comes out, you're going to see ranking of schools at 2 levels. National ranking from level 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. And then we're going to have the similar schools ranking. So the big boys and girls will be compared against each other for us to know how well they are doing. So if you happen to be a school that is ranked nationally as 10, then we're going to see when you are ranked against schools that look like you, are you 1 or 2 or 9 or 10? The best school in the country will be ranked 10-10. So among similar schools, there are 10. Nationwide, there are 10. You may have a school that is ranked 2. But when you compare that school to schools that are just like it, you're going to see that they'll be ranked 10. Then we commend that school and look at their best practices and how we can use the best practices to bring about transformation. We don't need to travel further to see the best practices. There are schools in this nation that are doing so well. So under the new policy of the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service, new schools will be affiliated with existing high-performing schools. Headmasters from existing high-performing schools, assistant headmasters, may be posted to new schools. We've seen examples of that. Headmasters have been posted from schools that are high-performing, and they go to one school and put that school on the map. That is going to be done proactively to ensure that a new school does not stay there for 10 years before it becomes a great institution. These are proactive steps that are going to be taken, directed by the president to ensure that our schools does well and ensure that there's less pressure on the existing high-performing school. We need to create more high-performing schools fast. STEM high schools. There are about 10 of them that are going to be open in this country. Various stages of construction at this point. Some of them have come to close to finishing, like Abomosu. V-block schools, big campus, boarding school, almost completed. It is going to be operationalized so well. I've been assured by the Ghana Education Service that headmasters will be there some 3 months before the school opens. Libraries will be stocked with books before they open. The schools open. There won't be any school where we don't have science labs. That will be a thing of the past. In each one of these schools that you see, the Abomosu and other schools that are under construction, you are going to see that they have 12 science labs. Biology teacher will have his classroom, and that is the biology lab with an office and a storage space. In these schools, teachers will be in their classrooms and children will be visiting them. That is the best practice around the world. The situation where students are by themselves in a room and you see on the wall, Jojo was here, 2010. And Atubiga was here, written on the wall. Because no teacher was watching. That is not the international best practice. I'm sorry, for some of you, your names may disappear from your walls. When we are able to get the resources to change existing schools to take that format. But around the world, the best practices is where the teacher is in his room. He has a small refrigerator by the corner. He rarely visits staff common room. He has his work demonstrated on the walls. Yes, we cannot do this for every existing school. For the new schools, we have to make sure we start right. And that is what we're going to see in these new schools. And I can't wait till next year when new schools open and walk into any classroom and the walls are decorated. We call it talking walls in education. A student look at the wall and he's studying something. He has the vocabulary for the week on the wall. Everywhere they turn, they are learning. We have Promethean balls. The day of the white balls and the black balls will be over. We are going to start as a pilot. But that will be the future of education in this country. I think I've talked about TVET, so I'll skip that. Look at the places. This is where you're going to find the schools. Major transformation underway. And I tell you, Nana Adutwum Akufo-Addo's plan is to make sure that the education system and space is transformed so that it can play its rightful role of socioeconomic transformation. And that is simple. And that is why I'm so fortunate to be in this space. I'm one of the luckiest education ministers in the world. When you spend all your time in education, and that is why when I go to school, I can't help but teach. It has become part of me. And I'm lucky that the president gave me this opportunity. We are going to implement his vision with fidelity to ensure that the 21st century education in Ghana will compete with the rest of the world. That Ghana will not lose anything in the next years ahead of us. Our system will become better than what we came to find it. It will not be worse than what we came to find. So for those who will talk about things are not good, I'll tell you this. We don't have the best education system in the world, but we have made some giant strides, and we are going to continue with those giant strides. And we are going to build a robust education system that will stand the test of time. We are going to build a robust education system that will compete and win against many systems around the world. The new schools you're going to find will be different from what we have seen. Yes, we are going to rebuild schools that are falling apart, but also going to ensure that we can compete. And be competitive means something will change. Across the length and breadth of this country, you may see a school like this in a community near you. So yes, we have funding to do rehabilitation of schools through Badia. We're going to do that. We're also going to ensure that we'll fix our education system. We will build on the progress that has been chalked, the success is chalked. Because we know when you fix your education system, you are actually fixing the socioeconomic structure. And when you fix the socioeconomic structure, you are truly fixing the next generation and the next generation and the generation not yet unborn will look at what have happened in the nation and will say, we are fortunate. We are very fortunate that there was a president called Nana Adutwum Akufo-Addo who did everything possible to ensure that the nation's fortune will be transformed through education. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have been given this opportunity by your good selves and the Minister for Information. I can assure you that the next 4 years is going to see major transformation. Where there are challenges, we're going to fix it. where there are opportunities, we're going to capitalize on it and take advantage of it and do what is right for this nation. I'm lucky to find myself in this space, and I want to use my expertise to the benefit of the president to bring about what he has envisaged as a major education transformation agenda in the history of Ghana. God bless you all, and God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Minister, thank you. You may briefly take a seat so that we get into the second part of our conversation this afternoon, which is where our colleagues would raise their questions, and then we will do our best to get some answers to those questions. As much as possible, we'll try to stay on Minister's presentation this afternoon. So the microphone is ready. If you have a question, I'll do well to take them in batches. If you have a question, do let me know, and then I will take them. Minister, please take note of a few that I've seen online currently. I'll start with that one. Can we get the microphone down here? So let me start with these ones that I've noticed online, about 4 of them, and then I would take some more. The first is that there's a claim that under the current free senior high school structure, students learn nothing because they spend less days in a year in school. So they are learning nothing. If you have an opportunity to respond to that, would like to hear a response. There's also a suggestion that the recent WASI results are not a genuine reflection of a suspected poor quality of education that the students are receiving. That there's a suspicion that the students are getting poor quality education, and that these WASI results are therefore not a genuine reflection of what they are getting there. There's a third, scanning through the comments thereon, essentially that some schools are complaining about food, furniture, and a few challenges as proof that the free senior high school program has done more harm than good. That there are some schools that say they have challenges with furniture and food and a few other things, and that is proof that the free senior high school program has done more harm than good. And then the final one is the 10 STEM schools that you talk about. Do we have a timeline for when they are opening? 2022, 2021. So, Minister, please take note of this. I will start, I saw a hand up here. Let me start here. I saw a number of others here. So let me start here. And then, okay, so 1, 2, 3. And then I'll let Minister do a response, and then I'll come to the second set of questions. Yes, sir, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm Musa Lansa with GH1 TV. My first is just a request from a headmaster in the Upper West region, Northern Star Senior High School. They're asking for a dormitory for their girls and also some urinals. So I just put in the request.
You have to speak up a bit. A request for girls' dormitory from Northern Star Senior High School
in Wa. And also some urinals for the students.
Okay.
Secondly, the distribution of vehicles for schools. I just want to know what criteria was used to do the distribution, because I know of very less endowed schools in some rural communities who did not get the pickups, but those in urban areas, some very endowed schools that even their PTA buys pickups for the school to run.
So what's the criteria for vehicle distribution?
For vehicle
I want to take as many questions as possible, so let's make it spot on. Yes, sir. GNA, quickly.
Yeah, my first question is, in view of the COVID-19 pandemic and then declining in government revenue, people have suggested that government should do a dialogue, stakeholder dialogue, to find alternative means of funding free SHS. Has government any plan to do a review?
So plans to explore alternative funding arrangements.
Then 2, Honorable Minister, you are the champion for spearheading this free SHS and entire government education policy. But there was allegation that you have not even enrolled your child in free SHS school or public secondary school, but rather private senior high school. How true is this? And if you can give further light into this thing.
Thank you. I'll take a final one. Is that Mr. Akapo? I see there? Yes, okay. So let's hear you and then we'll get responses.
So 4 quick ones. I'll make them very quick.
4?
Yes, very quickly.
That's a lot.
So the first one has to do with classroom blocks, dormitories, libraries, among others, and infrastructure, basically. I heard the minister talk a lot about that. I was just watching a video from the Koforidua Secondary Technical School, and apparently there are a lot of problems there. I mean, some students looking at the bedding arrangement and all of that. What are we doing with the existing schools when it comes to infrastructure improvement? Secondly,
so what is the infrastructure improvement plan
Yes.
for the existing schools?
Existing schools.
Okay.
Tied to that, schools under trees. Mr. Minister, you spoke about the continuum from basic, secondary, tertiary education, but I'm sure you're aware there are some 2,417 schools under trees.
Where is this data coming
currently.
from?
So this is data that is available. I mean, data that the Education Ministry is aware of.
Don't worry. One thing we try to do is anytime we have data, we try to verify. Maybe this is World Bank data or GS data or something.
Yes.
So
World Bank
this is
data.
data from
World Bank data.
World Bank data.
Yes.
That 2,000.
Well, I can't give you the specific year, but I know that it's
No, I'm saying 2,400 and something.
2,417.
So the World Bank
And the
says
breakdown is, if I may, breakdown is 261 being at the KG level. Then there's 989 at the junior high school level, and then 1,167 at the primary school level.
Okay. So the World Bank says there are 2,417 schools under trees.
Yes.
Okay.
I can give you further,
No, it's
sightings
fine. We just
of
want to
where.
understand the data.
But I
So the
just
World
want
Bank
to-
says there's 2,417 schools under trees. Your question is?
Yes, so my question is, as we're broadening the educational sector and all of that, bettering it, how are we catering for the schools under trees?
What's the program? Okay.
Then recently we heard of the Deputy Minister Designate for Education talking about the fact that we need to borrow more to actually improve free SHS. Are we going to borrow more? From where? How much do we need?
So is that a policy decision? The Deputy Minister for Education.
For finance, I beg your pardon. Abna Osei Asari.
Okay.
Yes, so she was making mention of that.
Minister, okay,
And
so
so
fine.
it
I'll
falls-
find out from Minister whether that's their policy decision.
Yes, so I just want to find out what exactly we're going to be doing in that respect. And finally, you spoke of this longitudinal tracking system using the national identification card to aid the system in tracking the real educational progress of students. I want to find out, is that going to feed into the national identification system? Is it just going to be tapping into it to get this data? Are we going to, for example, have an application that we're going to create to roll out? What are the dynamics? What should we know about this? And what are the timelines?
Thank you. Honorable Minister, so we will take this as a first set. I know they are quite loaded. Education is a subject of interest to all of us, so let's go.
Okay, let me take the first one. Talk about my son. I think politics have taken a new low. My son should never be part of my political career. And secondly, I don't have a son who is old enough to be in a senior high school. So suffice it to say that I have no further comment on that. My son is not old enough to be in a senior high school. We have the best senior high schools in this country in the public sector. So if somebody says his son is not going to the best senior high schools in this country, I don't know how that is news. My son is not old enough to be in a senior high school. Now, let me move on. COVID-19 pandemic as a reason why we should somehow have a dialogue. I don't know what he wants the dialogue to be, but if the dialogue is about because of the COVID-19 and its impact, what should we do? Stop free senior high school? I'm not getting it. If it's about paying, that is the reason why we should not even be talking about it, because the pandemic has hit people so hard. And if there's a government program that is ensuring that their children are going to school, what are we saying? Those who can afford are saying, remove the foundation from the poor. I don't want to think that that is what has been suggested, so I'll leave it there. Parents are suffering. The least we can do is support them. and ensure that their children have education just like our children. Koforidua Sectech, I hope the headmaster is listening and he will take the pictures of the mattresses and the beds that are coming to his school and put it on social media for the world to see. We are fixing it. We didn't know. Came to our attention. Get Fund came to our rescue. We are fixing it. Call the headmaster and find out what he has received to date. Anything that he needs will be received. So, when challenges come, what we do is to make sure we can fix those challenges. I'm going to check on the World Bank website to see if we have 2,407, but I know there are schools that are in the trees. 5? Okay. VACO Trust Fund has committed to eliminate it on behalf of the government. We are very, very grateful to them. But also going ahead, as a ministry, we are looking at education planning seriously. Schools under trees is a symptom of poor planning. Why did we not know that that community needs a school and proactively put a school there? And just go and approve a school that is under tree. When you were sending the teachers there, didn't we see there were no classrooms? So it's an indictment against us, and we are going to do a better job next time, not to look at the symptoms, but to really uproot the challenge, the problem. That we as education ministry will have a more robust planning division that looks ahead of time to see the needs of our people and don't wait for a certain community to try to lift themselves by their bootstraps and start a school that has no classrooms. So I get it, and we are going to do something about it. But we are grateful to VACO Trust Fund for their commitment to this. Some people claim, you see, this logic is very interesting. For those of us who had the fortune of studying logic and reasoning in high school, in the good old days of, I think it was called general paper, there was something called logic. And people are trying as much as possible to prove that Free Senior High School is of poor quality. So even when the results is good, they have to find some way to attack the results and make the results bad so that it can prove their point. But that point cannot be proven. You say they don't learn anything. In education, there's something called instructional hours. In education, we don't look at instructional days, but hours. In the old regime, before double track and semester system, students had 1,080 hours in school. Today, as I speak with you, students have 1,130 hours in school every year. Which one is better? Oh yes, I wish I was in school with all my cousins and we're all on the same track like it's happening at Kumasi High School. I wish that was the case, but we have to take a leapfrogging strategy with double track and do what other countries have done, where you don't allow the schools to be empty when children are on the streets and they are selling dog chains and cannot have the opportunity for secondary education. So we're using international best practice of double track, or what is called year-round school. It's a leapfrogging strategy. It has been time tested. I've taught in the program in America, of all places where there's money. They use it in California and use it so well until they had the money to take it away and get students to go back as single track. That is what Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo looked at and said, you know what? If I can educate 400,000 more children, I'm going to use this system that is time-tested around the world. Yes, sometimes the explanation of it may be a bit confusing, but it doesn't take away the benefit that this system is giving to us as a country. And soon and very soon, schools will be back on single track so that cousins and friends will be on the same track and will forever be happy. The president has committed to that and he's doing that. Talk about infrastructure. 1.5 billion potentially available for school construction. Have seen buildings in schools across the country. Basic schools and high schools. You go to Kumasi Secondary Technical School. Go and see construction ongoing there. Go to Accra Academy. Every school that you visit that is a double track school is seeing massive infrastructural development in this country. You are the media. allow for you to go to one of the double-track schools and come back and say there's no school here, there's no building here. Massive infrastructure development, expanding existing schools, in addition to the new ones under construction. So when you talk about infrastructure, we've done a lot. And the president says he's committed to doing more. WASI, suspected of poor quality, trying to make sure that you prove at all costs the quality of free senior high school is poor. The intervention that has been done, you have more hours of instruction. You have extra classes funded and paid for by the government. And as if that is not enough, when we took over the helm of affairs at the Ministry of Education, students didn't have core textbooks. 4 core textbooks were procured for all senior high school students, as we are currently doing for primary schools. Publishers have been selected, books are being procured, will be distributed across the length and breadth of this country at the primary level for all schools. Yes, it delayed, but now it is being fixed. Their books will be going. The government did the same thing for senior high schools. Go to any school, every student have 4 core textbooks. Elective books are also available through bookshops and through libraries for the student to check out. So when you do all this intervention, the outcome will be better. But for those who say the interventions were not done, they don't expect quality outcomes. So they will go at length to even accuse the venerable WAEC with all its challenges. It's a major testing institution in West Africa. Now they have processes that they use to ensure that if you cheat, you are caught. And then some people talk about students who reported cheating and were complaining. These students were so disappointed that what they thought was going to come on the exam didn't come. And in fact, in some places, they even demonstrated, poor kids. Their questions didn't come. And they were so disappointed that they demonstrated. And then when the exams come and some students have done so well, you say, why did they do so well? Why were they complaining about the cheating? Why were they complaining about the leak exam that didn't come? The logic is not working. If they were so happy that the questions came, why did they demonstrate? They were disappointed. Those schools probably didn't do as well. But those who studied got it right, and the scores were better. My brother who gave me information about the Northern Star, I think, school. Okay, thank you so much for the information. I'll make sure that I'll give this to my infrastructure development division to take a look at the situation. And then there was a question about vehicles. This was the criteria. The criteria was this. If you receive a pickup or a bus in 2016, you are not getting one this time around. That was the main criteria. So any school that did not get anything in 2016, we made sure they got one. Then there are some that say, so we got one, the Mahindra, but it's not working. I said, okay, wait. The next time there's a consignment, we'll make sure you get one. If there's any school that did not get anything during 2016, they should have a pickup to begin with. If there's a situation where something was overlooked, we will make amends at the appropriate time. So we will not ignore any school. When those students do well, they do it for the country. So I'm not going to say urban schools should have it, rural schools should not. No, that is not going to happen under our watch.
Minister,
the 10 STEM,
the 10
STEM schools.
And then the question of the dynamics of the longitudinal tertiary
tracking.
system.
Yes, we have a system that we are developing with the support of a philanthropic organization called Big When. They have actually helped us in developing the dashboard. And through Gallup, the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project, we're also getting additional funds to really build a student information system that will tie in with the dashboard provided by Big When, which will enable the longitudinal tracking to take place. I think that was his question, or there was another.
And then
in terms of the unique identifier, it's just for registration purposes. Because if you have a unique identifier, what it enables you to do is that the student who comes to KG, you truly know he's the same person going through the school system. You see, around the world, how you do your dropout tracking is when you have a unique identifier. What it means is that maybe a student leaves Bonkoko and travels to Techiman, and the teachers at Bonkoko may not even know where the student has gone to and may think that the student has dropped out. But when you track the system, you're going to see that that student has enrolled in the school at Techiman. Because when he goes to Techiman and wants to enroll in the school, the parents will be asked to bring the unique identifier. So when you go through the system, you can truly see what is dropout and what is just change of school. And that is why using the unique identifier is so important. The 10 STEM schools will be operationalized next year. All of them are on track. And the Creative Arts Senior High School, with its accompanying junior high school, is a novelty. And this is located in Kwadaso, Kumasi. It is one of the government's attempts to ensure the creative arts industry gets the human resources that it needs. I'm so happy that the Creative Arts Agency is going to train teachers, because now that we have included creative arts in our curriculum from primary school all the way up, Creative Arts Agency has offered to train teachers, and they've also offered to really help us operationalize the Creative Arts High School and its accompanying junior high and primary school in Kumasi. So that is what I can say.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, I want to take 2 more batches of questions. So I'll take one, we'll do answers, and then there's a hand at the back. We are not having many ladies. Am I not seeing the ladies well? Okay, there's a lady here. So yeah, let's start with the lady. The gentleman at the back, I'll come to you, and then I'll take, is that a call, Bloomberg? Okay, and then I'll do 3 more from here for Minister to answer. Yes, madam, let's hear you.
Okay.
Emefa, is that you?
Yes, please.
Let's
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So I'm glad to hear the minister use the phrase, we are fixing the education system. I have a few questions. Has there been any independent assessment of the free SHS program to provide government with data on what is going well and what must be improved? And also, how much exactly have we spent on the free SHS program since its inception? And what is the plan for the long-term funding of the scheme? And how soon will the double track end in all schools? And has the management of the free SHS now moved from the Jubilee House to the Ministry of Education? And if so, what is the role of the free SHS Secretariat? And I saw an extension of Wi-Fi to SHSs and tertiary. I would want to find, as one of the achievements, it came up on the screen. Please, which schools exactly?
All right.
And Mr. Minister, the question was whether you have
wanted
your
to give
child
ladies
in the
opportunity.
GES system. That was the question.
Okay.
GES system. Is your child in the GES system?
All right.
That's the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Emefa. There was a hand at the back there. Gentleman, yes? Is there another lady at the back? Lady in purple. I'll come to you afterwards.
Thank you. My name is Kester Kransha, I write for the Daily Graphic. My question is on something you said today that excites me, that we have funding to rehabilitate schools in this country.
You have to speak up, sir.
Okay, so the minister said that we have funding to rehabilitate schools in the country. So I wanted to know the scope, because if we have funding to do this, then it's a very good thing, because we have all been talking about infrastructure. So if you can break it down for us, what's the scope of the project and how many schools will be rehabilitated? Is it across the country? Would it be done concurrently or not? Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
My second question is on the double track system. He says the double track system is doing very well, and we all know that it's doing very well. So these Rasta kids were admitted to Achimota last week. They belong to the gold system, the gold track. And the gold track has exhausted the 12 weeks of school time. So they are already sitting for exams just because the judgment just came in. But there is another track, which is the green track, which has done only 6 weeks. So is it possible that we move them to that track so that the benefit of this double track will be felt? This can be a success story for the double track, that when there was this crisis, we were able to use the double track to get this case time for school. My last one is on VACO. We all know the problems of VACO in this country, sir. So if we say VACO has vowed to eliminate schools under trees, I want to know VACO's commitment to that, and then how visible that will be. Thank you.
Very well. Colleagues, I don't intend to silence you, if I may use that expression. But you know that if you keep your questions snappy, others can also ask some more questions. So let's try and make it as snappy as possible. Let's take the lady in purple. We are biased towards the ladies. So let's take the lady in purple. Yes, madam, let's hear you. Then we'll come to the front row here, and Minister will respond. Yes, sir.
Okay, Minister, my question is with regards to the Student Loan Trust Fund about the no guarantor policy. So we all know that the requirements of a guarantor became a barrier to loan access. And in the NPP manifesto, it was stated that all students have an option to obtain a student's loan without the requirement of a guarantor. So I wanted to ask if you could touch more on that policy, like how exactly it will be done without the guarantor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then let's come to the front. I think I mentioned ECHO before I come to the front row here. So please let's hear from ECHO, and then let me come down here, and then let's wrap up on this segment. Say again. No. Take it now. Let's go.
All right, Honorable, I think it's fair to congratulate you. I enjoyed your speech, which is more like a lecture, and it looked quite extemporaneous.
Echo, ask your question.
It's quite heartwarming.
Ask your question. We don't have much time.
I know, but Honorable, it's also important. It's so important.
Ask your question.
Okay, Honorable, there's a school of thought that we could do some targeting of especially the boarding aspect of the free SHS. That across the world, government mostly favors day senior high school. That is for free. So therefore, if you could consider that, looking at the cost per capita, government spends double what is spent on the boarding school as compared to a day student. Is there scope to do something so that boarders can pay a token, at least to help advance the cost of that? Then on the double track system, you know that out of about 700, about 57 schools are the supposed preferred.
Where is this data coming from?
This is the data that's coming from one of the websites, institutions that works on education. I think it's African.
Please do well to share with us the sources of your data so
I
that
think
we
it's
can all
Africa
validate.
Education Watch.
No, please. The point I'm making is that, colleagues, when we are doing this, do well to share with us the sources of your data so that we can validate and respond accordingly. That's why I asked that question about the source of it.
I think it's Africa Education Watch. That is of about 700 SHS schools.
Africa Education Watch.
Yes. Of about 700 senior high schools, 57 are the most preferred, and those are the people that get the most numbers, hence the infrastructure.
Okay, so your question is?
Whilst others are operating at lower output, can't government, since granting free SHS, decide how to redistribute some of the students across board to also enhance efficiency of use? Then lastly, when I see the likes of Aboboya and Okada, I feel scandalized because of the likes of Apostle Joseph in line with the TVET you're talking about. Is there a way that we could use that system to help also advance the cause of these laudable ideas that we also spoken about?
I didn't understand the question. Is there a way that we can utilize?
We can use that Apostle Joseph as a base, so to say, for this TVET that we are developing.
As in like the non-traditional educational systems, can they be brought in to augment the TVET structure?
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me come to the front row here. Yeah. Is that Ghanaian Times? So the row on which Ghanaian Times is, yes.
Statesman. My name is Paul, Minister.
Please speak up so that we can hear you.
Thank you very much. I have 4 solid questions.
Today we are in trouble.
Mr. Minister, my first question...
These are 4 solid questions.
Solid.
Not liquid questions. Let's go ahead.
My question has to do with whether government has been too fetish on the free education policy.
Over-focused on it.
Yes. And the second one has to do with whether government is what government is exactly trying to do on the reforms. What reforms has government trying to exactly do?
Where? Basic senior high school or tertiary?
Basic education.
Basic education reforms.
Yes.
What is the objective?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And the third one has to do with some of the teachers are refusing postings to rural communities because of lack of accommodation.
Yeah.
Has government taken any step to address that challenge? And also, the last but not the least, has to do with teachers in the rural areas take advantages of students' conditions because of the postings to send them to farm. Has this come to the attention of government, and what measures has been put in place to avert the situation?
Okay,
So
but
the
that's not
last
fair
has
to teachers in rural areas. So it is alleged that some teachers
Yes.
in some rural areas
Yes.
take advantage of the students and put them to other tasks.
Yes.
Okay.
And the last question, the last is just an appeal to the minister. A community in Saboba called Sanguli, they have a school which has a student population of over 450 students, and from the lower education there, they have students who lie portrait even to write their exams.
So furniture
issue, and also they have a dilapidated school quarters that no teacher lives there because of the condition. So I will want the minister.
This is in Saboba.
Saboba.
Which area in Saboba?
Sanguli.
Sanguli.
Sanguli. SAGLI.
Okay, Sanguli.
Yes, in Saboba.
Ghanaian Times and then Satellite, and then I'll come for responses. These are solid questions indeed.
Thank you.
Just two more, then I'll come to you, Minister. Yes, sir.
Minister, mine is simple. I would want to find out. What problem the national standardized test seek to address, because already we hear rumor and parents complaining that their children are not taking the yearly or the termly exams they do. So I would want to find out what problem that particular program seeks to address. And then the last one is on the STEM education.
Mm-hmm.
When exactly are we starting with its implementation?
Okay. Nana, I'll give you the final word.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. Your predecessor made mention of the fact that they are embarking on 840 projects, schools projects around the whole country. And you have
also infrastructure projects?
Yes.
That the former minister at a point mentioned that there were 840 infrastructure projects.
We want to know...
Was that basic or senior high school or what?
All schools, from basic to tertiary. We want to know how many of them have been
Because I think the number he mentioned was more than that. Mr. Boadu, the Get Fund project was what? 1,400 projects under Get Fund. Yes, I recall the figure was more. So your question is...
Whatever figure, we want to know how many of them have been completed. Those at the completion level, those under construction and things. I want to know the specific figures, if you be magnificent to give us the figures. And my second question, do communities, new developing communities, do they have the right to set up their own schools without the approval of the Ghana Education Service? Because we are seeing this school and because of some of these developments.
Yeah. Last question.
Yes, last question. Okay. Honorable Minister, you know that the computer placement system came to, as it were, reduce or remove the problem of admission and things like that. But it looks as if still the problems are persistent, because when schools reopen, some parents, when they get school for that, they was, no, I don't like the school because I want my child to go to Achimota, go to Wegehe, go to St. Peter's or whatever. Yeah. And they try to maneuver the system.
So the question is?
The question is, how are we going to nip this situation in the bud? Because it's resurfacing and coming back to play. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, Minister, what do you make of the residual challenges that keep coming up, even with a computer placement system, and how can you resolve it? Minister, please take the podium. I want to crave your indulgence, Minister, that we defer the Get Fund question to Get Fund to come and give a detailed account somewhere down the line of that presentation, because that presentation was originally done by Get Fund. I was here when they did it. So, with your indulgence, I would ask that we defer that one to them. The rest were in your hands.
Good. I wanted to start with the 4 solid questions. And I will attempt to give 4 solid answers. So, let me check. 4 solid. 4 solid. Where's my 4 solid?
I think one was about Valco, was it?
Oh, Valco Trust Fund.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm grateful to Valco Trust Fund. It's not VALCO, the trust fund. They may have accumulated funds, I don't know. They came to us and offered. What else do you want me to say? Other than say thank you. Do I have to say, bring your bank statement? Let me know if you can. So I thank them for their offer. So probably I need to just go. I'm trying to find the first
Students Loan Trust Fund. Do you have any further information to give on the no guarantee loan scheme?
Is that part of the first solid?
No, that was by one of our ladies.
Okay, so probably I should go on with the independent assessment of what is going well. Of course, Ghana Education Service gets annual reports from schools that give us an idea as to what is going well and what we need to improve upon. But I thought, my friends in the media, this is what you do so well. When you go around and do your assessment, you tell us what we are doing so well. And we have heard from some of you, like my friend there who was saying, I want to commend the minister. And also I have some friends who say, I want to stop this minister from saying what he's saying. So, we get some assessment from you. But on a more serious note, assessments are done annually. I will get reports from the Ghana Education Service. The amount spent, thought I had my documents here. I'll have to, it's not here with me, but I'll have to put it on your platform. We have the total amount spent. It was all cataloged for me. I probably left it in the car. But we'll make sure that you get that data on the website of the Ministry of Information and on their Facebook immediately after this, because we have the total amounts all tabulated. So we have that. In terms of schools that we are going to be building, of course, the School Under Trees, the offer from VALCO Trust Fund. Get Fund has various schools that they have also infrastructure development that they've embarked upon. And then we have the double track elimination program, emergency school construction that Get Fund started. I think there was something about my son which I said I've stopped commenting on it. Double track, something said about gold track and green track. And I think that's something that the Ghana Education Service will take up and speak with the headmistress of the school. Wi-Fi will also provide a full list of schools. It was about 560 of them at the senior high school level. We have the list. We also put it on the website for everybody to see and appreciate. My brother Echo was talking about targeting. I like your advice. I'll probably schedule a meeting to meet with you so I can get more information from you. So it was a comment. It was a very interesting comment, and I don't have any comment on that. Solid. So I will find some time to pick your brain on some of those ideas. Invariably, at such media encounters, I get great ideas, and I take them to work. So yours is one of them, and I'll be talking to you, my brother Eko. Apostle Kojo Safo, yes, we'll take a look at his system and how best we can learn from him. Because you see, his system is like the German dual system. They have the students working on the technical and they also have the industry there. So it's a very unique combination, something that we need to learn from. So I appreciate you pointing me in that direction. The Ghanaian Times, there was a question about so much about free senior high school. I think at the beginning I made a point that a free senior high school is a means to an end and not an end in itself. You see, for those who went to senior high school and there was nothing in the way and you just passed the common entrance or the BEC and your dad said, let's go, let me pay your fees and buy your stuff for you. You may not understand. Somebody like me, when I passed the common entrance, my dad didn't have 40 cedis. My younger brother had to sell a pig of his so that my fee could be paid. 40 cedis, I just from senior high school. That is how I went to senior high school. So sometimes when you see some of us attach some emotions to free senior high school, it's not about making fetish of it. The young man who was just saved by a younger brother then ends up in America building schools for Americans and coming back home to support the vision of the president. This is me. So sometimes, those of you who had a benefit, and I don't fault you, you were lucky, you may not understand that some people are in real crisis, and if we don't lend a helping hand, will leave them behind forever, and their future will be very different. So, we are not making fetish. But when I go to my constituency and I go to villages, this is the real deal for them. This is their future. Without it, they have nothing. Okay, so that I don't also make a fetish out of your question. 4-year teacher education, a major reform. It used to be 3 years, actually 2 years, 1 year practicum, and you are done. You are ready to teach after high school. 2 years, 1 year teaching practice, you are ready to go and teach. Government has now made it 4 years, major undertaking. And also, the president ought to be commended that restoring allowances and paying more for allowances. You see, when you restore allowances, the option for you is that, hey, if I extend it to 4 years, I'm going to pay more, right? But he said, we'd rather make the real investment. So the quality teachers coming out of 4 years is going to also help improve our schools. And many teachers, on their own volition, pay to upgrade themselves, and have to commend them for it. There was a question about in rural areas. I don't have any complaint that has come to my attention that rural teachers are taking children to the farm. So I don't want to answer. I can't speculate on that. But if it comes to the attention of Ghana Education Service, we will take action so that children will not be taken advantage of. So thank you. And then I heard something about Sambuli. Is Saboba area.
Saboba, Sanguli.
Yes,
the
I've
school
taken
that
note
needs
of
furniture.
it. And the Director General of Ghana Education Services here, fortunately, he's sitting there to get fund. So they don't have to be out of here to find a solution to the Sambuli question. And I don't want to come here the next time and the same question will come. So my brothers, please take note of it and fix it for us so that we don't have to come back here to be asked the same question. Do I have another one? Hey, yes, I do.
Yes, Minister. There's also a question about
national standardized test.
Yes.
Why?
What's the problem you want to solve?
I think I said at the beginning, in countries around the world, you don't wait for 11 years before the nation knows how well the students are doing. In countries that education has been transformed, every year they test students at the national level, in addition to any test that is organized at the school level. So the Primary 4 National Standardized Test is going to enable the government, the people of Ghana, districts, regions, House of Chiefs, everyone, media, to know how well our primary schools are doing and the intervention that is going to be provided to them. If we wait till 11 years, it's too late. If a child goes to a kindergarten and at the national level, we have no idea how they are doing, till 11 years at the BEC, you cannot intervene. The 11 years come, they take the test, and it's done. When you test them in primary 4, as we're going to do this year, what it enables us to do is to really measure what the World Bank calls learning poverty. By year 10, how many students can read? If we know that we have a serious problem as defined the World Bank in terms of learning poverty, we go to work, provide intervention in primary 5, they move on to primary 6, and through our longitudinal data system, we'll be able to know if the primary 6 students of Kokrobita is doing well or they are not doing well, Techiman is doing well or not, Sapsugu is doing well or not, and then we're able, those who are doing well, we go to see their best practices and then use the best practices in other schools around the country to make sure we do as a nation. So it's an attempt to make sure that we don't wait till it's too late. That is why the National Standardized Test is so important. During the COVID era, of course, schools were shut down. So sometimes you hear that, oh, my child didn't do any test last year. Last year, for the most part, the kids were not in school. I think in terms of the infrastructure, Get Fund has been offered a rare opportunity to come here and account to the good people of Ghana. And I'm sure my brother will do justice to that. So I'm not saying anything about that. Communities that complete their own schools, we want to commend them for their efforts, but I'm also saying that there's a need to ensure that we can plan together so that where there needs to be a school, we take the lead and put a school there so that the communities don't struggle through all these things, especially in partnership with the district assemblies. CPSS, everybody wants to go to Achimota. Hey, why not? Everybody wants to go to Achimota or Gestons and Fansipim. I went to Yachipram, so Now it's a good school. Yeah. Everybody wants to go there. That is why we have 10 new schools under construction to be operationalized as a Chimotan in Fansipim, so there will be less pressure. It's not 54 schools, actually 154 schools are in what is called the Ivy League school brackets. And we're going to add more. We want to borrow the best practices from St. James, one of the top schools, put it at Akrodie, a new school under construction, and make sure Akrodie implement the best practices of St. James in Sunyane, and ensure that Akrodie, which is a new school under construction with the similar facilities as you see up there, will become like St. James. When I'm operationalized Abomosu, I don't want Abomosu to be operationalized in isolation. We'll pay it up with Presec. Get Presec to implement its best practices at Abomosu, and before you know, Abomosu has become like Presec. This is a new paradigm in terms of new school operationalization that we seek to implement.
Minister, a couple of questions that I think are still outstanding, but I want to take the final batch and add those ones to them. I'll take media houses I haven't heard from already, so please forgive me if I don't call you since I've heard from you. There's a gentleman out there. One, are there others? Is there a lady at the back there? Yes, madam. Is that Sarah? Yes. You know we are biased towards ladies, so once you give me a wave, we'll jump the men and come to you. Please take the microphone to the lady at the back there. Apart from Sarah, is there any other? Sarah, did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll take Sarah. I'll take the cameraman at the back who wants to ask a question after I take this gentleman. So let's hear from Sarah first. Sarah, let's hear you.
Please, I'd like to have a complete update on the e-blog.
Okay. That's it. Yes, let's hear from this gentleman. Sarah, I'll add your e-blog question to what the Get Fund presentation will be about in terms of the infrastructure completion. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
My question no Doctor. 2020 manifesto NPP promises yeto abama wo mo modern yasem mutimi si 16 model schools was Zongo communities. Mi bisa say sa boshewe update aba anything. Medase.
Ms. Medase, there was a cameraman at the back who gave me a wave that he wanted to ask a question. Yes, sir. Is that DNT? Okay.
Please, I would like to ask if there are any plans to introduce patriotism and Pan-Africanism into schools' curriculum.
Thank you. So, civics, patriotism, Pan-Africanism, do they find any place in the new curriculum? Let me just reiterate two questions, Minister, that I think we missed. One has to do with the Free SHS Secretariat. There's this supposition that Free SHS was initially being run from Jubilee House. Is it true? And if it's true, is it true that it has now been moved? And whether it's true or not, what is the role of the Free SHS Secretariat in all of this? And is government considering any long-term funding for the Free Senior High School program? I think we'll tie that in with a request that came that, do you have any comment on what a Deputy Finance Minister designate is reported to have said, that we have to borrow more to fund education? That's a report, at least. I haven't had the benefit of hearing exactly what she said, but do you have any comment on that? So, Minister, please wrap up for us, and then we'll call it a day.
Thank you so much, Information Minister. Model schools, 16 of them, we are seeking for funding, and very soon I'm sure we'll get some response about the funding that is supposed to target the model schools in Zongo communities. You talk about our curriculum has a course called Our World, Our People, and that is where issues bordering on we as a people is reflected in. So the question about what we are saying about Pan-Africanism and all the other things, it should find expression through Our World and Our People. There was a question about Free Senior High School. Yeah, the budget was part of the Office of Government Machinery. It's now the Ministry of Education. I think that's the simple response I can have for you.
Yeah, but
Free Senior High School Secretariat
if you just let
was
me,
always...
if you just let me interrupt you, Minister, I think we have to be a bit clear here. There was a supposition that the program was being run from Jubilee House.
No.
The answer you've given is about where the budget resided. I think it's important that we reconcile
the two.
The
program was not being run from Jubilee House. The program was run by the Minister for Education through the Free Senior High School Secretariat. Initially, the understanding was that it's just like the Northern Feeding Grant. Even though the Northern Feeding Grant was being supervised by Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service, the monies were not coming through us. It was going through the Scholarship Secretariat. So when you said Jubilee House, you are probably saying the Scholarship Secretariat. It was seen as a scholarship program. And now we believe with all the work we've done, and everything has been done through the Ministry of Education anyway. So we are running in the way it has been run, not from Jubilee House, but from the Ministry of Education. I think, okay.
Yes, Minister.
Now, the long term, in terms of, we have a system where if you are the minister, you request for funds, the funds are given to you, you run your program. So as the Minister for Education, that is what I'm interested in. I've not been refused funds. So I'm not worried about the long term. I'm worried about how I can use these funds so well that the students will be educated to the highest level possible, and consequently they will come and transform the system in such a way that by their effort, the Free Senior High School for tomorrow will become viable and sustainable, because the economy will be improving and the nation will see transformation through education. That is the logic in terms of how other countries have done it. They invested when things were challenging. They turned their fortunes around. More revenue, therefore, came to them, and they were able to sustain their free secondary education. And that is how America did it. That is how other countries in the world have done it. You invest, the returns or the investment then gives you the opportunity to do more. And that is what we are doing under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Minister for Information, my document is here. I thought it was in the car. In terms of the Free Senior High School budget allocation. In 2017, we spent 480 million. In 2018, we spent 1,137,861,816, all in cedis. 2019, 1,682,641,924. And the following year, there will be an adjustment there because of COVID. But the actual budget was 2,429,257,748. That will be revised because of the COVID and the academic year changes. And this year is 1,974,021,968, all in cedis. In all, we spent to date 7,703,783,456 cedis. And that is the data that was given to me by my chief director, who I trust.
Minister, grateful. I think we can give the Honorable Minister a decent round of applause for the presentation. The Honorable Adutwum, Minister responsible for Education, Member of Parliament for Bosomtwi. How are the Bosomtwi engineers doing, by the way?
Oh, Bosomtwi engineers, they came to visit me in my office about 3 weeks ago. They are doing so well at UMAT. 30 of them from one district. We're committed to 100 engineers. In 5 to 6 years, we come to Bosomtwi and there will be 100 engineers. I'm excited about it.
It's a good initiative. We thank you for your time and for taking us through